Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parler Show. My name is Ruth, and I'm your host. Today, I am joined here with my special guest. I will let her introduce herself. So, hello, welcome. Please tell everyone your name and just one thing or two about you, about yourself. So, yeah.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Michelle Stacy Kabenda. Most people do know me as Site. I'm currently a Master's of Divinity student at the University of Dubuque Theological Seminary. So I'm just out here living my life for God, just walking by faith. So I'm really happy to be here with you today, Ruth.
So
and
thank
just
you
talk.
for coming.
Thank you for
We're
having
glad to
me.
have you. Today we are going to talk about growing up. I know. Okay, so growing up, we're gonna talk about sibling first. So,
Okay.
how many siblings did you have, and where did you grow up, and where were you born? Yeah, we'll start with that.
Okay, so I'm originally from East Africa. I'm
Period.
half Rwandese, half Ugandan.
Yes.
And I moved to the United States when I was like 4 or 5. I have 6 siblings, 3 older wait, no, I don't have 3 older brothers. I have 3 older siblings and 3 younger siblings. So I'm the middle child. Yeah, I have like 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
And is that like 3 older, or it's like?
So the oldest is my brother Nixon, and then my older sister, and then my older brother, and then me, then my younger sister, and then my younger sister, and then my younger brother. But
Okay,
yeah.
so you guys are kind of mixed. Oh my gosh,
So,
lucky.
like every
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I grew up with, there's 4 of us, including me. So I have 2 older sisters. I am also the middle child, yes, and I have 1 younger sister. So yeah, like.
So you're one of the younger ones.
Yeah, count me as one, but I felt like I was just in the middle between. And one thing also, like, did you grow up with mom and dad?
So I grew up with both of my parents. Both of my parents were pretty active in the picture, but when we did move here, my dad lived in the States for 3 years before we did. So there was that gap where he wasn't in our lives, but he was always on the phone with us. But
so he was still like in Africa, because
no, me, my mom, and my 5 siblings at the time were still in Uganda.
Okay.
And my dad was in Massachusetts. But then
okay. So I'm sorry, I missed it. I did hear you said that. Okay, so he moved here before you, and then y'all came after him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I came here in the United States with my both parents. We all came together as a family, from Congo, and it was always with them. Like, I basically also grew up with my parents. All right. So how was it growing up with siblings?
It's a mix of emotions. Like, growing up with a lot of siblings, it's a lot, but I love my siblings. Like, there's nobody I would go to war for my siblings.
Yeah.
I love my siblings so much. It was so much fun. My dad would always be like, I'm like, Dad, can I go to a sleepover? He's like, no, go sleep in your friend's room. Like,
oh, okay. So it was more like your siblings are your friends.
Yeah. So like, I'm very close to my siblings. It was, there'd be arguments here and there, but it was really, really fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You never felt like it was more of like you being their mother, because or it was more of like you being that sibling where the older brothers and sisters sent to do whatever, like go wash dishes, like go do this.
I think for me, I think that could come up every once in a while, having 3 younger siblings, but my parents tried to do it in a way that was fair. I think my mom tried to teach us fairness. So like, if she called me most of the time to do something, the next day she might call my younger sister Karen or Nixon, just like trying to teach us like how to divide things up equally. So I never necessarily felt that there was too much responsibility or any of that. Maybe my older siblings might say different, because we all kind of may have a different experience. But I don't know. Me personally, no.
I can relate to that with you. Just because I had 2 older sisters, so growing up it was very much of like watching them do stuff. I still like was sent to like, wash dishes, all that, but it wasn't that as much, especially like cooking wise. Like I remember my older, she was basically like the second mom when my mother wasn't at home. So, I can relate. I never felt pressure about anything. And I didn't get to watch my younger sister either because we both like 2 years and a half apart. So we both were just like growing up as like babies in the house. So, I can relate to that with you. Um,
So do you feel like gender norms were enforced in your home? Because you said you only had like one brother, right?
no, we didn't have brothers at all.
Oh,
We only
okay.
have, like I say, four girls. So, yeah, it was just, I think my dad felt alone for being the only man in the house, like raising daughters and, a wife, obviously. So it was just girly. It was very girly. So yeah, I grew up very, in a girly household. Um, and that's, one thing like we'll get on here too. Cause growing up like very, with a lot of girls, it was just like too much. Like, we had to share things. Being mad when somebody have this thing like you don't have, and that one thing, you say your parents made it, make sure it was very fairly, and I think my parents just tried, because with girls you can never just go as much wrong. Like they try, but it was, it was just, it was interesting growing up with my siblings. It was very interesting. So with your mom and dad, like who were you like close to more? Or let me not just say that, because I don't think, as a child you get to like, but who was more easy to like, for you to go to? Like your go to easy. Like maybe you would tell this thing to mom first better than your dad. Like,
Well, for me, I would say that I'm close to both of my parents, but like in terms of communication, I talk to my mom a lot because my mom, like my dad would be working and stuff and he'd come back very tired.
okay.
So I was very, 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 very close to my mom. Like I look up to my mom so much. Like I think most of like most of the things that I do are it's because I saw it from my mom first.
Yeah.
So like I was very close to my mom. I'll talk to her about most things, not all things, but most things. And like being someone, like I mentioned earlier, I am studying to become a pastor, and my mom's like a woman of faith. Like my mom she loves God to the moon and back. So I'd always go to my mom about like spiritual things or anything to do anything to
with
deal with faith. So I would say my mom because of that.
Yeah. I agree with you with that also. I think like, my siblings and I can relate because it was just girls, so it made it a lot easier to go to our mom, because our mother just knew, like she just knew, it was just easier to talk to her about like, things. And I think the way like we were with our dad, like my dad, super quiet person, he calls us his friends, but he was not really the person like you can how can I say it, to talk things out easily. Like my dad, like if you need to go somewhere, my mom was like, okay, I understand why I'm sending her to do a sleepover, which never done, but I understand why. But with my dad is like, with who are you, what are you doing, like when are you coming back home, like yeah, super also like curious. So you don't want to answer all those questions as a kid because like you're nervous, you're just like it's just a simple question I asked, I didn't want to go through all the interview. So growing up, definitely my mom was the easiest person to go to with everything, and she just knew how to talk to my dad. And I think that's one thing also, me and my siblings, we had a little easier to go because it was like she knew what to talk to like how to approach my dad and like make him understand like, okay, here's why your girls need this, like here's why your girl wanted to go out there. So definitely growing up, but which is like different now that I'm old. Now it's both. It's crazy how that changed, but I can definitely say now it's both. Every time that I have a situation, I definitely go to both of them, tell them the same thing. Definitely they both will have like different perspective how to like help me with whatever is going on, but now is, it's both. I go to both of them with whatever I need. What about you? Is it still the same as you?
Um, I think. I mean, I message both my parents the same
okay.
amount. To be honest, like, I'm not. When I'm at home, I try to talk to both of them the same amount.
Okay. So you were like still sit them down, both of them, and then like talk to them.
Yeah, I still like to communicate with both my parents because I love both of them, and I want to give I want to let them know that I appreciate both of them. I think even right now, as much as I'm close to my parents, I'd say like I'm closer to my siblings in that sense.
Closer
so if I
to
have a
your
lot of
siblings.
things to talk about, I'll probably call up like my younger sister, and we'll talk. But I would say it's kind of changed from childhood. It's kind of leveled out. But then there was also a time when I was like a little girl where I was closest to my father. Like my dad and I were very, very close, and I'd go to him first. So I don't know. I think it's like a back and forth
thing. Yeah. So yeah, like definitely. What about like, okay, so you say that you were close to your siblings now. Was that like just like from like growing up being the middle child, like you seeing a older sibling as role models, or it's more of just like if I'm having a mental breakdown, you're fine, I'm gonna call my siblings, or it's like you're close to them with like everything, like just because you grew up, they know you the most better than anybody out there, like you're not gonna go trust another friend before talking to your little sibling. Is that
so with my siblings, I see like ever since we were young, I literally see them as like best friends and stuff. And that's the word that I would use to explain it. I wouldn't necessarily say this is my best friend, but this is like how to best describe it. And we were very close because we joke around in the same way, like, or we just do random things together. It'd be like,
so you and your sibling didn't fight, like?
Oh, we fight. Like, my sister and I could be like real life fighting, and then next thing is like, oh, Stacy, do you want to go to Walmart just to walk around? I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's go do it.
For you guys, it's like easy to even like fix things.
Oh, for sure. It's like, man, we don't even know if we'll be alive tomorrow. We might as well fix it.
Oh, okay. So like your parents really taught you guys the meaning of like, love and with them
for sure.
All that.
For sure.
I can say me growing up with my siblings, we didn't see eye to eye, but I don't think I ever like, well, I would say like when we were younger, we were more, I don't think we like fought. I don't remember. Really? I don't remember. Like, really? Not that I remember. I think now we do. And which is like the issue where it would take us like a really like a bit of time to fix things, because then it will have like, okay, you did that to me, I'm gonna hold that for like a while and then we fix it later. But it's not like a tomorrow thing, like or later on let's go to we really didn't. And I don't think it has to also do with like not knowing what love is, because our parents like taught us really what love is, because no matter what, we will be there for each other. Like even if I was like mad at my sister right now but something happened to her, I'm driving there mad, but like I'm here to help you. So that's really what like the type of relationship that we have with each other. But that's because also like when we were younger, like I said, I don't remember fighting my sister. I caught my older sister too fighting, but it was never like me with them. Like we all had like just like our own thing, and it was more like, I'm gonna go talk to mom if you hurt my feelings. Like, oh yeah, I was the crybaby one. So until today we do that. Like if something's happening, we go to our parents instead of like fixing it with each other. But I don't know what is about that, but yeah, definitely, yeah, we go through that. So
like we still definitely have those petty moments.
Like I've
created a WhatsApp group chat with my parents in it.
Like just to talking hear what I saw here. Yeah. What was it like growing up with parents? Like I know you mentioned one thing, like your mom thought basically your faith is basically watching your mom also have a strong faith with God, and you turn out to wanting to be the same. what are like other things like in the household growing up, like when it comes to like being taught, like what were you taught, growing up?
So, faith was, I'll start with faith. Faith was a huge thing in my home. I didn't grow up religious though. I didn't grow up going to church, but I grew up watching my mom be a faithful woman, like obeying God, listening to God through the dreams that she would get, and like having the same thing, learning to obey in that sense too. And my father was a faithful man as well. He'd go to church. Like, we didn't grow up going to church, but if my dad could on Sundays, he would go. I have this memory of him reading the Bible. So didn't force religion on us, but I saw how it impacted them. And I was just like, I saw how God was working for me too. So I began walking. I mean, he's always been there. And I think my siblings could say the same thing too. Another thing that my parents taught us was like integrity. My mom's like, if you have to lie to get something, it's not meant for you.
Right.
And no matter what, like for example, a few examples I can use. If there was even just like a nickel, just 5 cents, my mom will pick it up, put it back, on the table in the living room, and be like, whose money is this? And it would just be 5 cents, and it would be like, Sita, is this your money? I'll be like, no, Mom, I think it belongs to Vanessa. Vanessa, is this your money? No, I think it belongs to Alex. Alex, is this yours? No, it's Daphine's. Oh, thank you guys for the 5 cents. It's just 5 cents. She taught us like, what doesn't belong to you doesn't belong to you. And my father taught us discipline and hard work. If you want something, you have to be disciplined and hard work, but you will get it as long as you have a plan and you go after it. There's no reason why you cannot get it. Another thing that we were taught is fairness. Like, for example, even if there's a lot of things, like let's say we're sharing a muffin, there's several muffins, but my mom would be like, Stacy, share this with your brother. It would be like, okay, cut it. So I would cut it, and she would say that Alex gets to pick. So it teaches us like, when you divide something, be fair in how you do it. Be just and fair in every decision that you make. Like, they just taught us a lot of the morality or character things that we have, and just to always be happy for everyone. Like, I think, unfortunately, I saw a lot of growing up, people being not the best to my parents, but behind closed doors, I always saw my parents still happy for them, still praying for them, still being like, it's nothing. Like, I was like, wow, you guys, I want to be like that. So those are things that I learned. What about you? Like,
okay.
What did you learn?
I can relate with some of you, like, being hard work, fairness, I think also one thing my parents like taught us growing up, it was patient. Being patient, because you might not have it all today, but that does not describe the next future or your tomorrow. Like, today is not tomorrow. Definitely we grew up where also like, I grew up where my dad would do everything for us, but also it was also like teaching us like how we needed to be treated, which like I'm seeing it like today, like you're act certain way and then people be like, oh, you always want like people, things go your way and stuff like that. But there is like minimum, like there's like the bare minimum, and then there's like what you need to settle with, and then there's like standards, all that. So one thing that's definitely what my dad taught us. Also, I grew up in a religion family. Growing up, it was a little bit weird because it was like we were in this one religion, and then my mom definitely a strong woman in prayer. So I definitely follow her when it comes to that because of like my life story and all that. So it's like I don't believe God just because my mother like showed me, but also because she, the pact that I had with like seeing her live, my life, and just in general, So that is another thing. Like yes, me and the Lord, we have it. We have a story. So yeah, and also I think it was no matter what, you can always love. No matter what, you can always love. And I don't know if you ever heard this, like the string of a family, it always get long, but it never break, So that is definitely one thing. Like, me and my siblings, we will get into it, but we always know where home is. We always know where home is. And that is what thing also, like, I wanted to touch on, like, how, like, what we learn at home, like, that us from the outside. Before we get into that, though, I know, like, were your parents also, like, strict? Who was, like, the strict parents in the house, or you had it easy? Like, they were cool.
I think it was a bit of both. I grew up sheltered for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't allowed to do too many things, but my siblings and I, babes, were different. We're a different type of bunch, yeah. If you want that freedom, grab it.
Grab it, right.
So we definitely did that, and my parents never really protested.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they set the rules, but they weren't against the rules being tested, because my parents, one thing that I always thank God for is they're humble enough to hear their kids out.
Okay.
It's like, Mom, I don't like this. And she'll sit and be like, and then be like, okay.
Yeah.
And she'll change. Or, Tata, I don't like this. And he'll listen.
Okay.
And maybe sometimes there might be some argument if we don't see eye to eye, but you see that change coming. So I always loved the fact that, although there was times where, like, it would be like super, like, I don't know, angry or whatever, what word you want to use. Most of the time they would listen. So yes, it was a strict home, but also not really. And my siblings and I were rebellious, but in the same sense, we also knew our limits. So if it's like, okay, I'm going to stay out till 11.